Your mind has become a prison where the same thoughts play on repeat like a broken record you can't turn off, where every conversation you had 3 years ago gets relitigated at 3 in the morning, where every mistake you made gets examined from 17 different angles until you've convinced yourself you're fundamentally broken and you're so deep inside this loop of destructive thinking that you've forgotten what it feels like to have a quiet mind, to think a thought once and let it go, to exist without this constant background noise of self-criticism, worst-case scenarios, and memories you can't stop replaying no matter how much you want them to stop. You wake up and the thoughts are already there waiting for you. You go through your day with half your brain trapped in conversations that aren't happening, analyzing interactions that already ended, preparing for disasters that will never come, and by the time you try to sleep, you're so mentally exhausted from arguing with yourself, from catastrophizing, from running through the same painful scenarios over and over that you can't rest. You just lie there while your mind continues its relentless assault. And the worst part is you know you're doing it to yourself. You know these thoughts aren't helping, aren't productive, aren't even real. But knowing that doesn't stop them because the loop has become so automatic, so ingrained, so much a part of how you exist that you do not remember how to think any other way. You've tried ignoring the thoughts, tried positive thinking, tried distracting yourself, tried everything except the one thing that might actually work. Understanding why your mind learned to do this in the first place, and teaching it a different way to process the world that doesn't involve destroying you from the inside out. You replay the same conversation 50 times, changing what you said, imagining what you should have said, torturing yourself with how stupid you sounded. You wake up at night thinking about something embarrassing you did 5 years ago that nobody else remembers. You can't make decisions because your mind immediately shows you every possible way it could go wrong. You scroll through social media and your brain automatically starts comparing your worst moments to everyone else's highlight reel. You can't enjoy the present because you're either dwelling on the past or catastrophizing about the future. You know exactly how you'll fail before you even try. Your mind has already written the entire story of your humiliation. You hear one word of criticism and your brain takes it and builds an entire case for why you're worthless. You can't accept a compliment because your mind immediately provides 17 reasons why the person is wrong, or lying, or just being nice. You ruminate on hypothetical scenarios that haven't happened and probably never will. But your nervous system reacts like they're real, like they're happening right now. You're exhausted but you can't rest because resting means the thoughts get louder, means you have to actually face what's happening inside your head instead of distracting yourself with motion, with work, with anything that keeps you from sitting still long enough to hear how cruel you're being to yourself every single moment of every single day. You weren't born with a mind that attacks you, that replays every mistake on an infinite loop, that treats every social interaction like a crime scene that needs to be investigated from every angle. This pattern was installed by circumstances that taught your brain that hypervigilance equals safety, that if you can just think about something enough, analyze it enough, prepare for every possible outcome, you'll be protected from pain, from rejection, from failure, from the unpredictability of being human. Your mind learned that the world is dangerous, that people are dangerous, that you're dangerous to yourself. And it developed this loop as a protection mechanism. If you can identify every threat, anticipate every problem, replay every interaction to figure out what went wrong, you can control the uncontrollable. You can prevent future pain by obsessively analyzing past pain. You can keep yourself safe by never being caught off guard. But what started as protection became a prison. What started as vigilance became torture. And now your mind is stuck in a pattern that was supposed to help you survive but is actually stopping you from living because you can't be present when you're trapped in the past. You can't take risks when your mind has already decided you'll fail. You can't connect with people when you're too busy replaying your last conversation to engage with the one happening now. And you can't heal when you're constantly reopening the same wounds to examine them again and again and again. Here's the brutal truth that nobody explained to you. Your thoughts aren't the problem, the loop is. And the loop exists because somewhere along the way your nervous system got stuck in threat mode and forgot how to turn off. So now everything feels dangerous, everything feels like it needs to be analyzed, everything feels like a problem that needs solving, when really most of the things you're thinking about are just thoughts, just mental noise, just your brain doing what it was trained to do when the world felt unsafe. You're not broken for thinking this way. You're traumatized, you're hypervigilant, you're operating from a nervous system that learned to scan for danger constantly because at some point not scanning for danger had consequences. And now that pattern runs automatically even when you're safe, even when there's no threat, even when obsessing over that conversation from last week, or that mistake from last year, or that thing that might go wrong tomorrow serves absolutely no purpose except making you miserable. The thoughts feel real, feel important, feel like if you just think about them one more time, you'll figure something out, but they're not. They're just a stuck record, a glitch in your operating system, a pattern that needs to be interrupted, not engaged with. Because every time you engage with the loop, every time you try to think your way out of overthinking, every time you analyze why you're anxious instead of just acknowledging that you're anxious and moving anyway, you're reinforcing the pattern, teaching your brain that these thoughts matter, that they deserve your attention, that if you just think hard enough, you'll solve them, when really the only way to solve them is to stop trying to solve them. Breaking the loop isn't about controlling your thoughts. It's about changing your relationship with them, about learning to notice when you're in the loop without getting dragged into it, about recognizing that just because a thought appears doesn't mean it's true or important or deserving of your attention. That thoughts are just mental events that come and go, and you don't have to engage with every single one, like it's a crisis that needs managing. When you notice you're ruminating, when you catch yourself replaying the same scenario for the 100th time, when you realize you're catastrophizing about something that hasn't happened, you don't try to stop the thought. You label it. You say to yourself, this is the loop, this is my nervous system stuck in threat mode. This thought isn't giving me new information, it's just replaying old fear. And then you do something physical, something that brings you back into your body and out of your head, because the loop lives in your mind, but your body is always in the present, always grounded, always available to pull you out of the spiral if you're willing to pay attention to it. Move, breathe deeply, feel your feet on the ground, splash cold water on your face. Do anything that interrupts the mental pattern and reminds your nervous system that you're here. You're safe, and this thought spiral is just a glitch, just a habit, just a pattern that doesn't deserve the power you've been giving it. You can start now, this moment, by noticing when you're in the loop without judgment, without trying to fix it, without analyzing why you're doing it. Just notice, just observe, just acknowledge that your mind is doing the thing it does. And instead of engaging with the content of the thoughts, instead of trying to solve them or think them through, you interrupt the pattern by doing something physical, something that grounds you, something that reminds your nervous system you're not in danger even though your thoughts are screaming that you are. Write the thought down and close the notebook. Tell yourself, I see this thought and I'm choosing not to engage with it right now. Set a timer for 5 minutes and give yourself permission to ruminate after the timer goes off, but not before. Usually by the time the timer rings, the thought has lost its urgency, has revealed itself as just mental noise rather than something that needs immediate attention. Practice catching the loop earlier. Noticing when your mind starts to spiral before you're 10 minutes deep into replaying a conversation from yesterday. And the earlier you catch it, the easier it is to interrupt, the less power it has over you. The more you prove to yourself that you're not helpless against your own thoughts, that you can notice them without drowning in them, that you're stronger than the loop even when it feels impossible. The loop is destroying you, not because your thoughts are dangerous, but because you've been treating them like they're real. Like they're facts, like they deserve hours of your attention and energy, when really they're just echoes of old pain, old fear, old protection mechanisms that don't serve you anymore. And the moment you stop fighting them, stop trying to control them, stop engaging with them like they're problems to solve, and start treating them like mental weather that passes if you don't feed it. That's when everything changes, when the loop starts to lose its power, when you realize you're not your thoughts, you're the person experiencing the thoughts. And that distance, that separation, that ability to observe without being consumed is what freedom feels like. Your mind learned this pattern to protect you, and you can teach it a new pattern. One that doesn't require constant vigilance, constant analysis, constant replaying of every painful moment. One that trusts that you're safe enough to let thoughts pass without examining them, strong enough to survive uncertainty without catastrophizing, capable enough to handle whatever comes without needing to prepare for every possible disaster. And that retraining starts now. With this moment, with this choice to notice the loop and refuse to get pulled in, to acknowledge the thought and let it go, to interrupt the pattern one time, then another, until slowly, gradually, your mind learns that it doesn't have to destroy you to keep you safe, that peace is possible, that quiet is possible, that you can exist without this constant assault of destructive thinking. And when you finally break free from the loop, you'll realize how much energy you've been wasting. How much life you've been missing, how much lighter you feel when you're not carrying the weight of every thought your mind produces. And that lightness, that freedom, that quiet, it was always available to you. You just had to stop feeding the loop and start living in the moment that exists outside of it. The moment that's always been waiting for you to notice it. The moment that's always right here, right now, ready whenever you are to step out of your head and into your life.